Little black girl begs bikers to hide her. From dad, what they found in her bag is shocking. It was past midnight when a trembling voice shattered the growl of engines inside a biker garage. A tiny girl, dark skin glistening with tears, clutching a backpack too heavy for her small shoulders, whispered words that froze every hardened man in the room. "Please, can you hide me from my daddy?" The Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club wasn't used to fear. They had stared down rival gangs, police raids, and nights that ended in gunfire. But nothing rattled them like the sight of a little girl stepping into their garage as if she'd walked through a nightmare to get here. She couldn't have been more than 6. Her braids were messy, her sneakers torn, and her big brown eyes darted between the dozen men towering over her. The pink and purple backpack she clutched looked almost as big as her. The president of the club, Marcus Ryder Kane, was the first to move. A scar stretched across his cheek, earned from a knife fight years back. He was used to people flinching at his face, but this girl didn't. She stood her ground, trembling but defiant. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Ryder's voice softened, something his brothers rarely heard. "Amara," she whispered, barely audible over the dripping of rain outside. "And why are you here, Amara?" asked Deacon, the club's enforcer, tattoos covering every inch of his arms. Her lips quivered. "Because Daddy's coming, and I don't want to go." The bikers exchanged glances, tough men with hardened lives suddenly unsure. "Where's your mama?" Ryder asked carefully, Amara's eyes filled with tears. "She's sleeping in heaven now." She paused, her tiny hands tightening around her backpack straps. "Daddy made her go there." The word struck the men like bullets. They'd seen plenty of violence in their lives, but hearing it in the broken voice of a child was different. It was raw. It was real. "How did you find us?" Ryder asked. Amara sniffled, looking down at her muddy shoes. "Mama showed me once. She said if anything bad happened, I should find the scary people who fight monsters." She dropped her backpack on the floor. The zipper shook as she pulled it open. Inside were snacks, a cracked cell phone, and something else. When she pulled it out, the room went dead silent. A kitchen knife. Dried blood clung to the blade. Her voice cracked, almost breaking into sobs. "Daddy was hurting Mama with this, so I took it. Mama said if I ever needed help, I should bring proof." Ara's small fingers trembled as she set the blood-stained knife on the table. The bikers leaned in, silent, their leather vests creaking as they shifted. "That's evidence," Amara said, repeating the word like her mother had taught her. "Mama told me if something bad happened, I should keep everything safe, so the police can know the truth." From her backpack, she pulled out a small digital camera scratched from use, then a tiny pink flash drive on a unicorn keychain. Ryder crouched to her level. "What's on there, sweetheart?" Amara bit her lip. "Pictures, videos. Mama said nobody would believe us unless we showed them." Deacon clicked through the camera. His jaw tightened with each image. Bruises, black eyes, bloodied lips. A woman hiding injuries with makeup. Some pictures were so bad that even men who had seen combat had to look away. There were dozens of them, months, maybe years of proof. Ryder swallowed hard, looking around the room. "This isn't just a family problem. This is a crime scene." Amara clutched her unicorn flash drive tight. "Mama said this little thing has Daddy's secrets too. His business stuff. She hid it for me. She said if something happened to her, I had to make sure the police got it." The room grew heavy with silence. "What kind of business?" asked Doc, the quietest member of the Wolves. Amara whispered. "Men with cars and guns. Daddy calls them his friends." The men knew exactly what that meant. Cartel. Before they could speak again, Amara's face drained of color. She tilted her head, listening. Engines, not Harleys. Not familiar. Multiple cars. Getting closer. Her voice shook. "That's Daddy's friends. He said he was coming for me." She stumbled backward, hiding behind Ryder's leather jacket. Every man in that room straightened, their instincts honed by years of fights. They weren't just bikers anymore. They were shields. And tonight they weren't letting anyone take her headlights cut through the night as 3 black SUVs screeched to a halt outside the Iron Wolves' garage. The bikers spread out, shoulders squared, their patched vests like armor in the glow of the fluorescent lights. The first door slammed. A man staggered out, drunk, furious, waving a gun. His face was unmistakably Amara's father. "Amara," he bellowed, his voice echoing off the metal walls. "You think you can run from me? Get out here!" Behind him, 2 other men stepped out. They weren't drunk. They weren't sloppy. They were cartel muscle, stone-faced, armed, dangerous. Ryder's voice dropped, calm but firm. "You need to leave now," the father sneered. "That little brat has something that belongs to me. Hand her over, or none of you are walking out of here." His eyes burned with rage as he shouted at the cartel men. "She's got the drive, that flash thing. It's everything, names, money, shipments. If the cops get it, we're all dead." Amara pressed her face against Ryder's back, trembling. Her voice was a whisper. "I don't want to go, Uncle Ryder, please." The cartel man raised his gun. "We don't leave witnesses." Ryder lifted a hand, signaling his brothers. In one swift movement, 12 bikers tightened formation around Amara like a human wall. But what happened next stunned them all. Amara stepped out from behind Ryder. Her small frame was dwarfed by the men with weapons. But her eyes carried her mother's strength. "You hurt Mama," she said, her voice steady now. "You made her go to sleep forever. And you're not going to hurt anyone else. Not anymore." Her father's face twisted. "You cost me everything. I should have gotten rid of you the same night as her." He lifted his gun, and in less than 90 seconds the wolves moved like shadows, a blur of fists, steel, and precision. Years of violence turned into protection. When it was over, the 3 men were zip-tied, groaning on the ground. Amara quietly bent down, picked up her father's gun with 2 fingers, and whispered, "This is evidence too." The garage was silent except for Amara's uneven breathing. The 12 men who had just dismantled armed cartel killers were now frozen, staring at the little girl clutching a gun like it was a poisonous snake. Ryder carefully knelt, taking it from her hands. "You're safe now, Amara. They can't hurt you anymore." Her lip trembled. "Is it over?" "Yeah," Ryder said softly, though even he knew it wasn't. "It's over." 20 minutes later, red and blue lights painted the rain-soaked pavement. The police swarmed in, hauling Amara's father and the cartel men into custody. Evidence piled high. The knife, the camera, the flash drive, 12 biker witnesses. The case was airtight. But when the chaos settled, a new problem remained. The social worker, a stern woman named Margaret Stevens, arrived with clipped steps and sharp eyes. "We'll take it from here," she said, reaching for Amara. "No," Amara cried, clinging to Ryder's jacket. Her tiny fist balled in desperation. "I don't want to go. Mama said the scary people fight monsters, and I found them." "I found you." The room shifted. Hardened criminals, men who had lived their lives in shadows, felt their hearts twist. "She'll be placed with family in California," Margaret said. "It's safer than here." "She's staying with us," Ryder shot back, his voice like iron. Margaret raised an eyebrow. "You're an outlaw motorcycle club with felony records. The state will never approve you as guardians." Ryder didn't blink. "Then the state has a problem. Because she chose us. And we're not giving her up." Amara's small hand slid into his, clutching it like an anchor in a storm. For the first time in their lives, the Iron Wolves weren't fighting for money, territory, or revenge. They were fighting for a child, and it was a battle none of them could afford to lose. The clubhouse smelled of leather, gasoline, and old beer. It wasn't built for children. Yet that first night, Amara curled up on a small bed the wolves had dragged into the meeting room. A dozen sleeping bags surrounded her like a fortress. She didn't fall asleep easily. Every creak made her flinch. When thunder cracked outside, she bolted upright, breathing fast. Chains, the enforcer with tattoos crawling up his neck, was the first to reach her. To outsiders, he was a monster. 6'4", broad as a doorframe, feared by everyone in the county. But now he knelt beside her bed, awkwardly patting her back. "Hey, little warrior," he whispered, his voice softer than anyone had ever heard it. "You're safe here. The monsters can't touch you now. But what if they come back?" Amara's voice cracked. Chains looked around at his brothers. For once, none of them had an answer. He swallowed hard. Then, with surprising tenderness, he said, "Monsters are scared of bigger monsters. And sweetheart, we're the biggest ones around." Her wide eyes searched his. "Promise?" "I promise," he said, and this time his gravelly voice shook. "You call for Uncle Chains no matter what. Day or night, I'll come running. That's what family does." Amara leaned against him, finally letting her eyelids flutter shut. Chains stayed there unmoving long after she slept. Around the room, the wolves exchanged glances. These men who had never cried at funerals now blinked back tears at the sight of a little girl clutching a tattooed giant's hand. For the first time in years, The clubhouse was silent, not from fear, but from peace. By day 4, Amara hadn't smiled once. She ate quietly, spoke rarely, and spent hours staring at the floor. Snake, the club's jokester, tried to lighten the mood with funny faces and exaggerated stories, but she barely reacted. That afternoon, Snake found her sitting beside his Harley, tears rolling down her cheeks. "What's wrong, little warrior?" he asked, crouching down. "I miss Mama," she whispered. "And I'm scared the bad dreams are going to come back." Snake's chest tightened. This wasn't a problem fists or engines could fix. Then he remembered something from his own childhood. "When I was your age, my granny told me a secret. She said, if you miss someone in heaven, you talk to them out loud. That way they can hear you even from up there." Amara sniffled. "Really? Really? And the best place to do it is somewhere safe. Right here with all your uncles." The other bikers had gathered quietly, forming a loose circle. Hesitant, Amara clasped her little hands and whispered, "Hi, Mama. I'm okay. The scary men took care of Daddy, just like you said they would. I found the people who fight monsters, and they're teaching me to be brave." "I miss you so much," her voice cracked. Snake gently squeezed her shoulder. Silence fell. Hard men looked away, pretending not to wipe their eyes. Ryder cleared his throat, rough and unsteady. "She's not alone anymore. Not while we breathe." For the first time, Amara smiled faintly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The nightmares came anyway. Screams ripped through the clubhouse at 3 a.m. The wolves rushed in like soldiers to war, only to find Amara thrashing, crying out for her mother. Chains was first, scooping her into his arms. "Shh, it's okay. You're safe," she clung to his vest, sobbing. "He's coming back. Daddy's coming." Ryder sat on the edge of her bed. "Listen to me, Amara, your daddy can't hurt you anymore. He's locked up. And even if he wasn't, he'd have to get through us first." She buried her face in Chains's chest. "But what if he does?" Chains pulled her closer. "Then he'll wish he hadn't." One by one, the wolves took turns comforting her. Doc made warm milk. Demon hummed a lullaby he hadn't sung since his own mother died. Even Tank, who rarely spoke, sat by her bed until dawn. When Amara finally drifted back to sleep, the men stayed awake. Not because they had to, but because none of them could bear to leave her alone. In that moment, the wolves realized something. They weren't just protecting her. They needed her too. 2 weeks in, Amara fell sick. At first it was just sniffles, but by nightfall her forehead burned with fever. Panic rippled through the clubhouse. "Hospital?" Tank suggested, pacing. Doc frowned, checking her temperature. "It's just a fever. She'll be fine." Ryder's eyes narrowed. "I don't want guesses. I want certainty." They transformed overnight into frantic nursemaids. Snake fetched ice chips. Demon sang soft songs. Chains read children's books in a gravelly voice. Ryder sat beside her bed, refusing to sleep. By morning, her fever broke. When she opened her eyes, the sight that greeted her made her giggle. 12 hardened bikers sprawled asleep in chairs. Empty medicine bottles and coffee cups scattered everywhere. "You all stayed with me?" she whispered. Ryder's tired eyes softened. "Of course, sweetheart. That's what daddies and uncles do." The men exchanged glances. None of them had asked for this role. Yet here they were, rough hands learning gentleness, men who once solved problems with violence now fighting fevers and nightmares. Margaret Stevens, the social worker, witnessed it with suspicion. She saw bikers child-proofing outlets, stocking juice boxes, and fumbling through Disney movies. She wanted to dismiss it as an act, but the look in Amara's eyes told her it was real. For the first time since losing her mother, Amara whispered the words that broke them all. "Thank you, family." Margaret Stevens didn't trust the wolves. She'd been a social worker for 30 years, had seen children fall through cracks because adults pretended to care. These men were ex-cons, fighters, lawbreakers. She couldn't allow herself to believe their sudden transformation, so she tested them. She dropped by unannounced. One Tuesday afternoon, she barged in expecting chaos. Instead, she found the wolves crouched around Amara at a low wooden table. Ryder was helping her with spelling homework, fumbling with the words. Chains was braiding her hair, clumsily but carefully. Snake was teaching her how to draw motorcycles. Margaret folded her arms. "You know this doesn't prove anything. Caring for a child is about stability, safety." Ryder looked up, his scar catching the light. "Lady, stability ain't about where you live. It's about who shows up when you're crying at 3 a.m. We show up. Amara ran to Margaret, holding up her notebook. Look, Miss Stevens, I got all the words right. Margaret's heart squeezed, but she hid it behind her stern mask. That's good, Amara, very good. Still doubts gnawed at her. These men were criminals. And yet every time she left, she caught the way Amara clung to them, her laughter echoing in halls that used to be filled with curses and gun smoke. Margaret didn't want to admit it, but something real was happening here. The custody hearing was unlike anything the county courthouse had seen. On one side, the state, arguing that Amara should be placed with her aunt in California. On the other, 12 leather-clad bikers sitting shoulder to shoulder, united in defiance. Ryder stood when it was his turn to speak. We ain't perfect men, but we don't leave our own behind. That little girl found us because her mama told her to find the people who fight monsters. That's what we are. She's ours now. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs. The state's attorney scoffed. Mr. Kane, you have a violent record. So do your brothers. The state cannot entrust a vulnerable child to men like you. Amara tugged on Margaret's sleeve. The judge nodded, allowing her to speak. The little girl walked to the center of the courtroom, clutching her unicorn flash drive like a talisman. I don't want to go to California, she said softly. I want to stay with the people who kept the monsters away. Mama said they'd be scary, but they weren't scary to me. They were safe. They made me laugh again. The room went silent. Even Margaret blinked back tears. The judge looked at Amara, then at the wolves. This is highly irregular, but I will consider temporary guardianship under strict supervision. The wolves exhaled a mix of relief and fear. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was a chance. Life in the clubhouse transformed. The walls that once held maps of turf and drug routes now displayed Amara's drawings. Crayon stick figures of bikers with oversized helmets and smiles. Juice boxes lined the fridge where beer used to be. The wolves adjusted to a new kind of chaos. School drop-offs, bedtime stories, spelling tests. They learned how to cook pancakes without burning them. Chains taught her how to ride on the back of his Harley in the parking lot, helmet too big for her head. Snake made up bedtime stories about wolves who protected little princesses. One evening, Amara sat on Ryder's lap, her head against his chest. Uncle Ryder, she whispered, are you my daddy now? Ryder froze. For years he'd been feared as a criminal, a fighter, a leader of men. Nobody had ever asked him to be a father. He swallowed hard. Sweetheart, I don't know if I'm good enough for that. She looked up, eyes shining. You're good enough for me. The room went quiet. Even Margaret, who had come for another surprise visit, had to look away, pretending to check her notes. In that silence, the wolves realized something none of them expected. They hadn't just saved Amara. She was saving them. The cartel hadn't forgotten. One night, headlights appeared outside the clubhouse again. This time, more cars, more men. Word spread fast. They wanted the flash drive, and they wanted Amara silenced. The wolves knew what it meant. Staying with her wasn't just about bedtime stories and homework. It was war. Ryder gathered the men. If we keep her, we paint targets on our backs. This club won't just be an MC anymore, it'll be a shield. A shield against men who don't stop until everyone's in the ground. Chains cracked his knuckles. Then let's be a shield. I'd rather die protecting her than live knowing we let her down. One by one, the wolves agreed. Not because it was easy, but because Amara had become their family. That night, Amara overheard them. She tiptoed into the room, her small voice breaking through the heavy silence. You don't have to fight for me. I'm not worth all that. Ryder crouched, gripping her shoulders firmly. Don't you ever say that again? You're worth everything. You hear me? Everything. Tears streamed down her cheeks. For the first time, she believed it. The wolves prepared for battle. But what they didn't know was that their fight would lead to something none of them expected. Redemption. The cartel hit came on a stormy night. Rain pounded the tin roof of the clubhouse, thunder rolling like drums of war. The wolves stood ready, chains wrapped around fists, bats, and shotguns gleaming in the dim light. Headlights cut through the rain. 3 black SUVs screeched to a stop. Masked men spilled out, guns raised. Hand over the girl, one shouted. Ryder stepped forward, leather vest soaked in rain, scar glinting under lightning. She's not yours to take. Gunfire erupted. The wolves fought like men with nothing left to lose. Chains swung his iron links, knocking rifles aside. Snake tackled a gunman into the mud. Deacon fired back with precision. The garage became a battleground, thunder and bullets blending into one terrible symphony. Inside, Margaret held Amara tight, whispering prayers. Amara clutched her unicorn flash drive, knowing this little piece of plastic was worth blood. When it seemed the wolves would be overrun, sirens wailed in the distance. Margaret had called in a favor. Police lights washed the night red and blue. The cartel scattered, retreating into the storm. The wolves stood bloodied but unbroken. Ryder leaned against his Harley, chest heaving, rain streaking down his scarred face. He looked at Amara, safe in Margaret's arms, and realized this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The final custody hearing arrived weeks later. The courtroom was packed. Press, neighbors, and curious onlookers who'd heard whispers of the biker club that fought a cartel for a child. The judge leaned forward, weary but thoughtful.
This case is
extraordinary. These men are not saints. Their records are long, but, he paused, looking at Amara. Sometimes family is not about blood. It's about who stands between you and the world when it wants to break you. He turned to Ryder. Mr. Kane, do you understand the responsibility you are asking for? Ryder nodded once. Yes, Your Honor, she's ours forever. The judge tapped his gavel. Then so be it. Guardianship is granted to the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, under continued supervision by the state. Gasps echoed. Margaret exhaled deeply, almost smiling. Amara squealed, running into Ryder's arms. The wolves, who once only knew the sound of engines and gunfire, now knew the sound of joy. The clubhouse didn't look like the same place anymore. Where there used to be broken bottles and smoke-stained walls, there were school drawings taped up and shelves of children's books. The wolves still roared down highways, still wore leather, still carried scars, but they carried something else too. A little girl's laughter echoing in their hearts. Every man found himself changed. Chain stopped drinking as hard. Snake started drawing again, inspired by Amara's sketches. Deacon, once feared for his fists, became the one who tucked her in at night with the gentlest touch. Ryder, the scarred leader, often sat with her on the porch at sunset. She would rest her head on his shoulder, and for the first time in decades he felt peace. Uncle Ryder, she asked one evening, are we safe now? He looked at the horizon, then down at her small, hopeful face. As long as we're together? Yeah, sweetheart, we're safe. She had walked into a garage full of wolves, terrified and broken, but instead of devouring her, they surrounded her, protected her, and in doing so, found something they never knew they needed. A family. The world would never fully understand how a little girl softened men carved from violence. But Amara didn't need the world to understand. She only needed the wolves, and every night, when engines rumbled like lullabies outside her window, she fell asleep knowing the monsters were gone, because the scariest men she'd ever met had chosen to be her heroes. Forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And we'd love to know, where in the world are you watching us from? Your support inspires us to keep bringing you more powerful and emotional stories.